I was 16 when I realized something was seriously wrong with my eyes. But like every stupid teenager who thinks they're invincible, I decided to handle it in the dumbest way possible. I hid it. From everyone, especially my parents. And looking back now, that decision almost cost me everything. It started on a random Tuesday morning. I remember because Tuesdays were when we had double period math, and I already hated math enough without my eyes betraying me too. I walked into class, sat in my usual spot, third row from the front, right next to the window, where I could daydream about literally anything else. Mrs. Sharma started writing on the board, and I picked up my pen, ready to copy whatever equation she was torturing us with that day. But here's the thing. I couldn't see it, like at all. The board looked like someone had smeared Vaseline all over it. I squinted, rubbed my eyes, blinked like I was trying to communicate in Morse code. Nothing worked. The numbers and letters just sat there, mocking me in their blurry glory. My first thought wasn't concern, it was denial. Classic. I thought maybe I was just tired. I'd stayed up until 2 in the morning, watching some guy on YouTube explain why pigeons are actually government drones. Don't judge me, it was fascinating. So yeah, I blamed the lack of sleep. But then Wednesday came, and Thursday, and by Friday, I couldn't even read my own handwriting. My notebooks looked like a doctor had prescribed them. My best friend Arjun noticed me squinting at my phone during lunch and asked if I was okay. I lied, told him I was just judging his terrible memes extra carefully. He laughed. I didn't. The weekends were worse because I had nowhere to hide. At home, I'd pretend to watch TV with my family. But honestly, I was just staring at colorful blobs moving around. Mom asked me once why I was sitting so close to the screen. I told her the Wi-Fi signal was better there. She gave me that classic mom look, the one that says, "I don't believe you, but I'll let it slide for now." My eyes started hurting too. Not just tired hurt, like someone was poking them with tiny invisible needles. They'd water randomly, making me look like I was crying over the stupidest things. During a boring history lecture, tears rolled down my face, and everyone thought I was emotionally moved by the Mughal Empire. I wasn't. I was just in pain. I started developing weird habits. I'd memorize the seating arrangement in class, so I could navigate without admitting I couldn't see faces clearly anymore. I'd ask people to read texts out loud, pretending my hands were too dirty to touch my phone. I became a master of excuses. But the real reason I didn't tell anyone, especially my parents, was because of what happened 2 weeks earlier. I'd lost my backpack. Or more accurately, 3 seniors had cornered me after school, thought it'd be funny to take my bag, and I never saw it again. The bag had my books, my calculator, and my favorite pen, the one that clicked really satisfyingly. When I came home and told Dad, he exploded. Not the yelling kind of explosion, but worse, the quiet, disappointed kind. He asked me how I could be so careless, said I never take responsibility for anything. Mom tried to defend me, saying maybe it really was stolen, but even she looked exhausted from always playing referee between us. So how could I tell them now that not only did I lose my backpack, but I was also possibly going blind? In my 16-year-old brain, that seemed like piling tragedy upon tragedy. They'd think I was cursed or something. Or worse, they'd blame the phone. And Dad already hated how much time I spent on it. Every evening, he'd walk past my room, see me scrolling, and make some comment about how my generation is doomed because we can't look up from screens. He wasn't completely wrong, but still. I didn't need the lecture, especially not now when my screen time might have actually destroyed my eyes. I tried to cut back. Really, I did. I'd keep my phone across the room at night, use it less during the day. But the damage was probably already done, and I was terrified to find out how bad it really was. School became my personal battlefield, and every single day, I was at war with my own body. Spoiler alert, I was losing. Big time. But I was already so deep into this lie that turning back felt impossible. So, I did what anyone would do. I adapted. I improvised. I became the lead actor in the worst one-man show ever, titled Everything's Fine, I Can Totally See. Picture this, Monday morning chemistry class. The teacher scribbles a formula on the board and, of course, calls on me to read it. My heart plummets. I'm staring at this blurry mess, willing the letters to magically snap into focus. They don't. So I flash my most innocent student smile and say, "Ma'am, you know, I think Priya hasn't had a chance to answer yet. Maybe we should give her a turn." Priya shoots me a look that could kill, but the teacher moves on. Crisis averted. For now. This became my go-to strategy. Deflect, redirect, crack a joke. Anything to avoid admitting I couldn't see the board 5 meters in front of me. My friends just thought I was being unusually generous, always letting others go first. Little did they know, I couldn't read the questions, even if you paid me. Lunchtime was its own special kind of nightmare. The cafeteria was a sea of blurry uniforms and faces. I literally couldn't recognize anyone from a distance. I'd just stand there awkwardly until someone called my name. One time, I confidently waved at someone I thought was my friend, Arjun. It wasn't. It was the vice principal. He just stared, utterly confused. I pretended I was doing a very elaborate stretch. Super smooth. At home, I mastered the art of listening instead of watching. During family TV time, I'd tune into the dialogue, reacting to the tone of voice and laughing whenever everyone else did. My mom actually praised me for not being glued to my phone, thinking I was finally taking Dad's advice. The irony was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. Speaking of Dad, we were still barely talking after the whole backpack incident. Our conversations were limited to good morning and pass the salt. Mom would try to be the peacemaker, telling him about my day, things I'd already shared with her. He'd just nod, say, "That's nice," and disappear behind his newspaper. A newspaper that, fun fact, I couldn't read anymore either. I missed reading. I really, really missed it. I used to devour books, but now every page was just a frustrating jumble of blurred ink. I tried audiobooks, but it just wasn't the same. It felt like I was losing a huge part of myself, but I couldn't even properly mourn it because I was too busy with my full-time job of pretending everything was okay. And then came the headaches. At first, they were just a gentle nudge, a little reminder that I was being a complete idiot. But they grew. By week 3 of my brilliant, ignore my failing eyesight plan, I was getting full-blown migraines that made me want to just curl up and cry, which I did, alone, in the school bathroom during lunch. Very dramatic, I know. One day, my best friend Arjun caught me rubbing my eyes for the millionth time and asked point blank if something was wrong. We'd been friends since we were kids. He could always tell when I was lying, but I'd gotten pretty good at it. "Allergies," I said, waving a hand dismissively. "Dust, pollen, the usual suspects." He didn't look convinced, but he dropped it. My clumsiness went next level. Door frames became my mortal enemies. I was constantly misjudging distances, bumping my shoulder into walls, and playing it off like I was just naturally uncoordinated. After I knocked over a glass at dinner for the 3rd time, Mom asked if I was okay. I blamed it on the crowded table. So, she rearranged the entire dining set. The problem wasn't the table, Mom. It was me. Sleep was my only escape. When my eyes were closed, I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to struggle. I could finally drop the exhausting act. But then morning would come. I'd wake up feeling like my eyes were filled with sand, stare at my blurry reflection in the mirror, and promise myself, today's the day. Today I'll tell them. But I never did. Every time I got close, I'd see my dad's disappointed face in my mind, or my mom's tired eyes. I didn't want to add any more tension to our already strained home life. So, I'd take a deep breath, put on my brave face, and head out for another day of pretending. Looking back, I have no idea what I thought the endgame was. Did I think my eyes would just magically heal themselves? That I'd wake up one day and everything would be crystal clear again? Honestly, I don't think I was thinking at all. I was just scared. Scared of being a burden. Scared of hearing, "I told you so." Scared of admitting I'd made a huge mistake. But fear only works as a strategy for so long. and mine was about to run out. Thank you so much for listening to this part of my story. It means the world to me. If you're connecting with this, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. See you in the next one. It was a Thursday night when my body finally decided it had had enough of my nonsense. I'd gone to bed like usual, eyes aching, head pounding, telling myself I just had to hold it together for one more day. I fell asleep fast because I was exhausted. Not just tired, but that deep bone-level exhaustion that comes from carrying secrets that are just too heavy. I woke up around 3 in the morning. The room was dark, which was normal, but when I opened my eyes, everything was wrong. It wasn't just blurry anymore. It was hazy, like someone had wrapped my entire world in fog. I shot up in bed, my heart racing, and looked at the ceiling fan. I could barely make out its shape, just a dark shadow spinning slowly above me. Panic hit me like a train. This was different. This was worse. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grab it. The screen glowed, but I couldn't read a single thing. Just bright light and vague shapes. I rubbed my eyes hard, way too hard. They burned and watered, and I realized I was probably making it worse, but I couldn't stop myself. I stumbled out of bed and found my way to the bathroom, mostly using muscle memory and the faint glow from the nightlight in the hall. I flicked on the light and stared at my reflection. My eyes were bloodshot red and swollen. I looked like I'd been crying for hours. Or maybe like someone who'd been ignoring a serious medical problem for weeks because he was too proud and too scared to ask for help. That's when it hit me. The full weight of what I'd done. Or rather, what I hadn't done. I'd let this get so bad that I woke up in the middle of the night, practically blind. What was I thinking? That it would just magically go away? That I could tough it out forever? I slid down to the bathroom floor, my back against the cold tiles, and tried to think. I could just wait until morning, pretend this was just a bad night, that it would be better by then. But even as I thought it, I knew that was the same stupid logic that got me here in the first place. My hands were still shaking. I felt sick, not from my eyes, but from fear. Pure, raw fear of what might happen if I kept waiting. What if I woke up tomorrow and couldn't see at all? What if I'd already caused permanent damage? What if this was it? I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 20. Time feels strange when you can't see the clock. But eventually, I stood up. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to walk down the hallway to my parents' room. Their door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and whispered, "Mom?" My voice cracked. I sounded like a little kid, which I guess in that moment, I was. She woke up instantly, the way moms just do. She sat up and looked at me. Even through my foggy vision, I could see her expression shift from sleepy confusion to instant concern. She didn't even ask what was wrong. She just saw my red, swollen eyes and my terrified face, and she knew. "Get dressed," she said quietly, already getting out of bed. "We're going to the hospital." Dad woke up too, confused at first, then suddenly alert. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something shift in his face. All the disappointment from the backpack, all the frustration about the phone, it just vanished. He simply nodded and said, "I'll get the car." The drive to the emergency clinic was silent. Mom sat in the back with me, holding my hand. I wanted to apologize, to explain, to tell them I was sorry for being so stupid. But my throat was tight, and I knew if I started talking, I'd start crying. And I was already embarrassed enough. The clinic was quiet, almost empty at that hour. The bright fluorescent lights hurt my eyes. A tired-looking doctor took one look at me and asked how long it had been like this. I hesitated. Mom squeezed my hand. "A few weeks," I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. "Maybe a month." I heard Mom's sharp intake of breath. Dad shifted beside me. The doctor started his exam, shining lights in my eyes, asking me to look in different directions, to read letters on a chart that were just impossible blurs. He asked about screen time. I nodded. He asked if anyone in our family had eye problems. Dad mentioned his own father had glaucoma. The doctor made notes, asked more questions. Finally, he leaned back and looked at my parents, then at me. "You have severe digital eye strain and early signs of other complications," he said. "If you'd waited much longer, if the inflammation had progressed, you could have had permanent damage. As it is, with proper treatment and rest, you should recover, but you'll need to be very careful going forward." Should recover, not will recover. Should. That one word sat heavy in the air. I'd been so close to making this permanent, so close to losing my sight because I was too scared to ask for help. The doctor prescribed eye drops, medications, strict screen time limits, and absolutely no phones or computers for at least 2 weeks. My eyes needed to heal. Properly. We left with a bag of medicines and instructions as the sun was starting to rise. The drive home was still quiet, but it was a different, softer quiet. In the car, Dad finally spoke. He didn't yell. He didn't lecture. He just asked, "Why didn't you tell us?" I had so many excuses ready, so many justifications. But sitting there, exhausted and scared and relieved all at once, I just told him the truth. I was scared of disappointing you more, of hearing that it was my fault, of being a burden. Dad pulled the car over, just stopped right there on the side of the road. He turned around to look at me, and his eyes were wet. I'd never seen my dad cry before. "You're not a burden," he said. "You're my son. Pain, problems, mistakes, all of it. You don't hide that from us, ever." Mom was crying. I was crying. We were all just a mess on the side of the road at 6 in the morning, and it was exactly what I needed. When we got home, Mom made me tea, and Dad sat with me while I took my first round of medication. They didn't go to work that day. They just stayed home, with me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could finally breathe. My eyes took months to fully recover. Those first 2 weeks with no screens were the hardest. My friend Arjun brought my homework and kept me updated on school drama. He never once said, "I told you so," which I really appreciated. Slowly, the haze lifted and the pain faded, and I learned something I should have known all along. Sometimes love sounds strict. Sometimes care hides behind anger. And sometimes the scariest thing isn't admitting you have a problem. It's living with one all by yourself. I still use screens. I'm still a teenager. But now I'm careful. I take breaks. I use proper lighting. I listen to my body. And most importantly, when something's wrong, I don't hide it. Because I almost lost everything trying to act strong. It turns out, asking for help is the strongest thing you can do. If you're listening to this and you're hiding something because you're scared, please don't. Talk to someone. Your parents, a friend, a teacher, anyone. Whatever you're afraid of facing, I promise you, it's not as scary as losing something you can never get back. Trust me, I learned that the hardest way possible. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot. Take care of yourselves.